Hi, my name is Rachel Irwin.
And I'm David.
And we're going to present to you the project we've been working on all semester that we entitled The Show Must Go On, Sustainability in the Theater. So basically what did we do? Our goal was to make the greater theater community of Alliance more sustainable. We did this by first researching. So first we looked up a bunch of theaters. We looked up information on Mount Union's theater department, Carnation City Players theater department, the high schools of Alliance, and also Shakespeare at the Castle, which is a summer festival that's going to be going on at Glengarry's Castle. So we were looking up all this information about these different theaters on how they have been sustainable in the past, if they had ever been. And it was a little disconcerting because none of them had really thought of very many sustainable reasons besides Shakespeare at the Castle, which we'll be getting into. We also looked at a bunch of professional theaters in cities like Chicago, California, New York City, seeing if they were doing anything sustainable. And we also looked up how they gain their materials, such as costumes, sets, and props, because there's a big difference between small community theaters, how they get their props and just costumes and other materials, and bigger corporations that have more money for it. So we did a lot of research on that. Then we began the interview process. We chose Kevin P. Kern, who is a theater professor here at Mount Union, as well as a director for Shakespeare at the Castle and for Mount Union Productions. And we also talked to Deb Lotzoff, who is the costume designer for Mount Union, and I believe she's also going to be working on Shakespeare at the Castle. We talked to them about how they have been sustainable here at Mount Union, maybe things that we didn't see on the websites or any information we didn't find. Also, with Kevin, he has worked at a lot of professional theaters in places like California, Montana, and Florida. So we were asking him the differences in sustainability between here and those professional theaters, and as well as getting the materials, renting materials, buying materials, and stuff like that. And then we began brainstorming possible actions. Some of the actions we first thought of to make Alliance theaters more sustainable was maybe creating an app on the phone so that when you go to see a show, you can pull up a program on an app, or maybe your ticket, you can scan it that way so you won't be wasting paper. Another idea we had was to create a system between all of the theaters of Alliance, such as the high schools, the colleges, Carnation City Players, and Shakespeare at the Castle, to with their costumes and their props to share them, kind of have like a little system, what do we call it, system of sharing or something like that, so that we could all, when Mount Union wasn't using these costumes and one of the theaters needed it, we can kind of incorporate that. We maybe make a website or something like that. That was another idea we had, and then we came up with our actual action plan.
So for our action, we went and talked to and re-interviewed and met with Kevin Kern and Rudy Roggenkamp, who Kevin, as she said, is the theater director and is the director for Shakespeare at the Castle, and Rudy is the technical director for all the shows, so he does all the sets and lighting and sound design and stuff like that. And he's also being the technical director for Shakespeare at the Castle over the summer. So first we had two ideas that we actually pursued. So the first is construction, because if you haven't noticed, there's a lot of construction going on over at Cope Music Hall. They're rebuilding and they're building a new theater in a new part of the music and theater area. So we just thought we'd ask Rudy, because Rudy is kind of the correspondence between the campus life and the construction company. So we decided to ask him about if maybe it was possible if he could talk to them about using some of the construction materials for, if they had any spare, instead of throwing them away, if we could use them for sets and building, that sort of thing. He basically said that it was possible, but it's because the construction is going to be using a lot of metal and stuff like that, whereas for plays and stuff, sets are basically mostly wood, so that you can reuse it and paint it over and stuff. That was the first, and then our second part of the action was, our kind of bigger part, was Shakespeare, working with Shakespeare at the Castle, with Kevin and Rudy, about ideas to make it more sustainable. So basically we presented to them kind of what we already saw, what we saw that they were already doing that was kind of sustainable for it, and then we had more ideas of how they could make it even more so. So yeah, we said they're outdoors because it's happening at the Glamorgan Castle, so it's going to be outdoors. So there's no lighting. It's just natural light and AC basically. Minimal set because they're just having like a platform and some levels. They're not really doing a lot of crazy stuff.
Because you're going to be using the castle as kind of mostly part set. We just need a few like levels.
Yeah. And then they're having music by members of the Alliance Symphony Orchestra. So whereas some of the actors are going to be, they're going to be coming from all over. The Alliance Symphony Orchestra is right here, so they won't have to transport less gas and fuel. Costumes, they're trying to reuse a lot of costumes from here and from Coronation City Players. They're trying to pull from all those. And then, yeah, housing actors. They were thinking about using some of the dorms for like Tech Week and stuff, so that the actors won't have to be coming back and forth to driving, because I know some of them are from like Cleveland and Norwalk, Ohio, and stuff like that. So instead of having to drive back and forth like every day, they'll be able to stay here. So that will cut down on transportation costs. Then some of our ideas for making it more sustainable, one of them was creating a Facebook group for carpooling. So if there's two people coming from Cleveland to be like for acting in the show, maybe they could hook up and get rides with each other, so they will cut down transportation again. Also providing recycle bins and trash cans around the whole place, so that for like when people come to see the show, they won't be wasting stuff and they won't be throwing stuff on the ground. They have places to put it all. And same with the programs, so that also maybe the program is a separate thing, so that if anyone doesn't want their program, they can reuse it for the next night or something, so they don't have to print out as many. Yeah, collected. Oh, yeah, so that's collected on one. And then programs, maybe we could make them from recycled paper, just to save a little bit. If we needed extra lighting, maybe use LED bulbs, because those save a lot of energy. And then candles for up on stage close for mood stuff. And then concessions, if they were planning on having concessions, just using biodegradable cups and plates and stuff like that, just so that it's not, if someone does throw it on the ground or something, it doesn't last forever and hurt the environment.
So why did we choose this goal of trying to make the Greater Alliance theater community more sustainable? Well, first, when we were first given the project and thinking of ideas of how to make things more sustainable, David and I, our friends, we were both thinking, well, we're going to be working on this all semester, so we want it to be something that we enjoy and we care about, so it'll be fun and easy for us to work on. And we are both theater majors and theater, so we figured we'd make it about that. Another reason we decided to choose this as our goal was because of the growing UMU theater department. With, like David said, the new building coming up, we're getting a lot of theater students and music students coming in that are very, very interested. So we thought when places are sustainable and eco-friendly, it kind of makes you think, oh well, this is a good environment, a good place to be, that they really care. So we thought that by making the department more sustainable, that it would kind of make us look even better of a school and a department. And that also goes along with the growing Shakespeare at the Castle, because this is going to be the first summer it's going to be happening. So for the community to make this new event look better and kind of help promote it, we thought making it more sustainable would help. Also, the fact that theater is it's not really the first thing you would think of to make it sustainable. It's kind of overlooked in that way, but there are many ways that we have found out to make it more sustainable, as like David talked about. So that's why we decided to do that.
So kind of why this is important, or this was important. Some of the things that this did was, for the union department, it provided another place that we could maybe go for new materials from the construction workers and stuff. But then also, kind of more importantly, it can gather interest from prospective students in that, like Rachel was saying, it'll look better, it'll make them see that we actually do care about things, and it's kind of the liberal arts thing, so we're not just theater, we're branching out to other areas too. And then bringing attention to the issue, basically to the whole college, because if other departments see that the theater department is doing sustainable things, maybe they'll see and be like, oh, well, we could try doing something like this, and kind of gather more ideas for making the campus more sustainable as a whole. Then the whole city of Alliance. We wanted to also really help with the new Shakespeare at the Castle. We think it's really important that since it's a new, they wanted to make it a tradition. Since they want to make it like a new annual thing, we thought it would be important that it starts on a sustainable foot, so that maybe later they can have more ideas and make it even more sustainable. And then promote sustainability within the city. If people see things being sustainable, they might think of other ideas.
So our achievements. Once again, our goal was to make the theater community of Alliance more sustainable. And even though we talked about all the different actions that we thought of doing, even though we didn't do all of them, we still feel that we achieved our goal. Another thing is that we really wanted to, with our two goals, to get the construction, talk to the construction workers and ask if we can use like materials. But the timing wasn't exactly right because the construction isn't going to be done until, the building's not going to be here until spring semester of next year. So it's kind of something in the future that we are going to have to do. So we weren't exactly able to fully do that action. We more so asked about that action. And then with Shakespeare at the Castle, it's not here yet. That's going to be in the middle of the summer. We could brainstorm ideas and talk to the director about it, but we couldn't actually do the action. So even though we were more so asking about things that were possible and like planning for the future, we didn't actually do them, but we still feel that we achieved our goal because we were promoting sustainability to those that weren't aware that theater could be sustainable. The Mount Union Theater Department, although they were reusing material as much as they could because we are a small university that doesn't have that many resources. Even though they were doing that, we brought up new ideas of how we could be sustainable and why it's important. Also, we brought up the issue to people such as Kevin, Rudy, and Deb, people that can really make a difference. With Rudy, he's basically the representative from Mount Union that is working with the construction workers the most because he's the representative for us. Talking to him, he was like, yeah, we could, set up, some kind of interview. You guys could talk to them. We could figure this all out. So, and Kevin was saying things such as, oh, for Shakespeare at the Castle, these are all really good ideas. Please remind me of these things. Send me an email because I really want to be able to do this. So we brought up this issue of why we need to be sustainable to people that can, really take it even further in the future. So that's why we think that we did achieve our goal.
So some of our challenges included researching because, as Rachel touched on earlier, there wasn't a lot of information because a lot of the professional theaters and bigger theaters kind of just do it. They don't really, there haven't been a lot of scholarly journals or articles written about it, so it was hard to find really good resources that we could use for our research. So that was a very big challenge. And then timing, as she said, because everything's happening in the future, it was difficult to actually feel like we were doing an action, but we're just kind of planning for things to happen. So we kind of planted the seed in people's minds, I guess. And then also it was difficult because we didn't have enough time because we had a lot of brainstormed ideas, but we didn't have enough time to do all of them, so we had to pick them, which ones we were going to do. And then scheduling, it was a little bit difficult because we had 2 shows this semester and dining room went right into Edges. It was hard to schedule with Kevin and Rudy and them for interviews and stuff.
And what would we change? Well, first, as we talked about, we would probably reconsider our action.
About just a few seconds, 1 minute or less, so go ahead and wrap up.
Okay, so we would reconsider our action. We would make it something that was more something we could do rather than just asking. Another thing we would do is we would set up an interview with a construction company ahead of time so we could plan for the future. And we would also get more support from the students, maybe create a Facebook page, get the theater department more involved student-wise, faculty-wise, thinking of ideas they had for sustainability and how they thought about it.
So what we learned by this project were a lot of things about theater-related things, which was cool, but then also we learned about current ways to be sustainable in the theater. So we learned about they have an arts market somewhere in Montana, I think, where they have an internet thing where they share materials, and then all across the board on theater they're switching to LED lighting, which really saves energy from the incandescent. And then they're using shaved wood instead of they shave the wood instead of using plywood, which saves wood. Also, in Paulin's article, we figured it helped us connect to that because he was saying that small actions are important and that they do lead to larger outcomes. And because our action, instead of being like a big thing that we did, we kind of just had ideas and tried to put those ideas with other people. So it was just kind of the idea of small actions leading to bigger things in the future.
And we are hoping to go on with Shakespeare at the Castle and the construction workers and trying to figure out how we can make this more sustainable. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Questions?
Question.
Oh, yeah, questions.